Hello, I'm Ben Winslow in South Salt Lake.
I'm Chris Reed in St. George. We're covering the Republican and Democrat caucuses. It's been a steady rain this New Year's morning in St. George. A lot of people I've talked to along Tabernacle have called it tears of rain. I'm Chris Reed in Millard County, where deputies say that 3 people have been found dead in this area. Grinds, ollies, drop-ins, they might seem like a foreign language to you, but to those in the skating and BMX communities, they're a way of life. I'm Southern Utah news reporter Chris Reed. Usually when the folks in the newsroom in Salt Lake City ask me, how is that heat down there? I really use that expression. It's a dry heat. It's not so bad. That's not so much the case today. It's not just hot, it's muggy. Welcome to Swamp St. George. I'm Chris Reed, and I'm at the site of a film studio under construction. Where I'm staying now might be Broadway, might be a Chicago street, might be a sitcom apartment, might be another planet. But I'll tell you where I'm not. I'm not in Hollywood.
It was like a dream.
Brett Burgess is a land developer by trade and a second-generation Southern Utahn. His son Carson went to school at the University of Utah, but isn't going into the family business. He wants to be a filmmaker. So how does Brett get his son to be an 8th generation to stay in St. George? He decides to build a film studio, of course.
It was kind of a wild idea, but I was like, you know, my son's here, we're here, I want to try to keep him here.
Turns out, someone else known for building dreams and making them come also had an eye on the idea of a film studio in St. George. Kevin Costner of Field of Dreams and Yellowstone fame was filming chapters 1 and 2 of Horizon, American Saga in the St. George area. Costner also wanted to build a studio in St. George.
But we have the ground, we have the means to pull it off.
Despite Costner putting most of his own money into Horizon Chapter 1, which flopped at the box office, the studio being built near St. George Regional Airport is not only still on, its first phase is nearly complete. How many square feet are we looking at here?
This is 37,500. So it's approximately 150 feet wide by 250 feet deep.
A warehouse to store sets, nicknamed The Barn, is nearly finished, save floor work and power. Ultimately, Territory Film Studios will be 70,000 square feet of sound stages in the backlot on 3,000 acres. Film fans of the recent monthly film revival screening at St. George's Historic Electric Theater had something to say.
I am personally very excited for the studio because I think it's going to open doors for everybody. I think there's the trickle effect.
Like Torsten Bangerter, who right now makes commercials.
I mean, as exciting as to make little commercials about supplements, I'd way rather be making awesome movies.
And Burgess said ultimately, it's not just about keeping his son in town.
You know, I wanted to keep so many kids here that end up leaving the state. You know, I wanted to try to build an industry.
From Territory Studios in St. George, Chris Reed, Fox 13 News, Utah.
But for farmers across the U.S., that may be easier said than done. The Strait of Hormuz is a vital trade route for fertilizer. Its closure has sent prices up by 20 to 30%. Fox 13 Southern Utah reporter Chris Reed spoke with some farmers who say this, coupled with Utah's water shortage, could spell trouble for harvest season.
We keep hearing about how the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz off Iran is affecting gas and oil prices and supply. Well, there's something else being blocked that's very much affecting farms here in Utah. Stuart Stowell has farmed in Hurricane for generations. Now he's dealing with a new hit. The war with Iran is blocking fertilizer shipments on top of rising fuel prices and an ongoing drought.
Well, I checked on fertilizer yesterday and it's up about 5%, so it's not too bad yet, but it's heading there quick, you know, with the fuel prices going up so fast.
The American Farm Bureau Federation says 30% of U.S. fertilizer imports come through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is attacking ships trying to pass through. Wade Smith supplies fertilizer in St. George and isn't worried.
None. If the concern is the Strait of Hormuz, a very small fraction of nitrogen that comes to the United States comes from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or the UAE. You might see a small disruption, but you're not going to see a shortage.
Smith says most purchase orders are placed 2 years out and stockpiled, leaving time to source components elsewhere. Stout spread his fertilizer early and won't need more until next year. But water in the heat, that's another story.
So a little worse than last year. We've had another dry winter, and it is, we're going to be rationing back. I'm sure by midsummer we're going to be cutting streams back just because there won't be the water in the mountain. We just have not had the snowpack.
The area is seeing some of the hottest March temperatures ever recorded.
The one thing I am concerned about is my spring grain crops will burn out quicker, you know, in the heat.
Those are crops like oats, barley, and hay. On fertilizer, Stout says he can turn to his own cows for a little.
Go back in there and I try to use them the best that I can, and they do a good job at what they do, and that's turning hay into fertilizer.
If you have anything you want me to know about in southwest Utah, scan the QR link. From Hurricane, Chris Reed, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Go!
I'm Chris Reed at Utah Tech, and the great race is underway. And it's a little bit peculiar.
I mean, yeah, I would say it's pretty weird, but it makes it exciting, you know?
Nia Turagovo is normally not dressed like Shrek and is part of Utah Tech's women's swimming team. On Friday, she was part of the Lord Farquaad Aquatic Squad, competing in the university's annual Great Race that goes back to the 1960s. The tradition that's part of D Week on campus dates back to the 1960s, when Utah Tech was Dixie Junior College. It was just a bike race then. Now it's just a little bit more. It starts off innocent enough, a little running, a little biking, just like any other race. And then becomes something a little more muddy.
You can train for the 800, you can train for the bike, but the mud kind of evens the playing field.
The 24 teams of 10 may have started out with a typical running and biking, but before you knew it, they were spinning around baseball bats. Then it got weirder with cornhole and one portion down a slip and slide. And at the end, mud. A team of cross-country runners named Ross's Army defended their title from last year. Named for assistant cross-country coach Ross Decker, they were called Citius Altius Fortius after the Latin Olympic motto a year ago.
And they were saying, here comes the first place team, White Citrus.
So Ross's Army it is. But even if you normally compete at the most serious NCAA competitions, there seems something bigger about this silly great race.
Oh, you know, I'm going to be totally honest. I took it as another race day.
If there's a story you're racing to tell us about, go ahead and scan that QR code. From Utah Tech, Chris Reed, Fox 13 News, Utah.